Hello, friends. Welcome to SJ's classes. It's the fourth chapter of the novella Animal Farm that we will discuss today. As part of our reading of the first three chapters, we understood that the story happens on a farm named Manor Farm and it's controlled by a person called Mr. Jones. And in chapter 1, we read that an old pig named Old Major convenes a meeting of all the animals that are there on the farm to convey the news about a dream that he saw the previous night. And for this, all the animals on the farm assemble. We come across some of the important characters in this novella, like Boxer and Clover, Benjamin. We also meet characters like Molly and Moses. And once all the animals have assembled, Old Major starts speaking to these animals and he talks about the nature of life of animals on England and on all other lands. He says that no animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure after he is a year old. And Old Major says that no animal in England is free and that the life of an animal is misery and slavery. And Old Major says that man is the root cause of all these problems. He is the only real enemy. Once you remove this particular cause, you will abolish hunger and hard work and overwork forever. And he teaches them the song uh, which he used to sing with other animals during his childhood. The song is titled Beasts of England. He also gives them many other instructions, which later on in chapter 2 they develop into something called the Seven Commandments. And in chapter 2, we confront the death of Old Major. It is in chapter 2 that we come across three of the most important characters in this novella, and they are Snowball, Napoleon, and Squealer. All these three characters are pigs. It's in chapter 2 that we also meet Moses, who occasionally talks about this place called Sugar Candy Mountain, which he says that it's located high above in the sky and where there is Sunday 7 days a week and clover was in season all the year round. It's in chapter 3 that we come across the rebellion uh, uh, through which the animals overthrow Mr. Jones from the farm. And finally, they name the farm, Manor Farm, as Animal Farm, and they write the seven commandments on one side of the barn. All these events we came across while we read chapter 2. In chapter 3, we found the animals working hard for the farm. The pigs, they were kind of supervisors since they had superior knowledge. They assumed the role of leaders. They don't actually work, but they supervised work. And it's also in chapter 3 that we come to a very uh, come to note this particular character who has an interesting attitude, which is a boxer. He is someone who works really hard for the farm, and his motto was "I will work hard." In chapter 3 we also read about the flag that the animals use in their farm, which got recently named as Animal Farm. The flag is green in color, and there was a hoof and a horn, which signified the future republic of animals, which would arise once the human race was finally overthrown. And we find that Snowball is someone who works rigorously for the betterment of the farm. He even forms animal committees. He forms committees like Clean Tails League for the cows, the Wild Comrades, the Education Committee for the rats and the rabbits, the Whiter Wool Movement for the sheep. So he works very hard for the farm, especially for the betterment of the farm. We also find that the animals, they try to educate themselves, but they miserably fail in it. So these were the important events that we came across in the first three chapters. Now let's discuss the important events in chapter 4. Chapter 4 begins with Snowball's and Napoleon's attempt to spread the word of the rebellion. Every day, Snowball and Napoleon, they would send out flight of pigeons who were instructed to mingle with other animals on the neighboring farms and tell them the story of the rebellion and also to teach them beasts of England. And at the very outset of chapter 4, we are made aware of two neighboring farms. One is Foxwood, which was a large, neglected, old fashioned farm which was much overgrown by woodland, with all its pastures worn out and its hedges in a disgraceful condition. And this particular farm, named Foxwood, was owned by Mr. Pilkington, who was an easygoing gentleman farmer who spent most of his time in fishing or hunting according to the season. The other farm was called Pinchfield. It was a comparatively smaller farm, but it was well kept. It was kept in a good condition, and it was owned by Mr. Frederick. And Mr. Frederick was a tough, shrewd man who was perpetually involved in lawsuits and with a name for driving hard bargains. So at the very outset, we find these two important events that Snowball and Napoleon they are trying to spread the word of the rebellion, and also the two neighboring farms of Animal Farm, which are Foxwood owned by Mr. Pilkington and Pinchfield owned by Mr. Frederick. It's in chapter 3 we witness the first battle between human beings and the animals on the animal farm, and it happens early in October. And we find that Jones and all his men with half a dozen others from Foxwood and Pinchfield, they enter the five barred gate, and they were coming up the car track that led to the farm. And obviously, and they were going to recapture farm from the animals. This was something which the animals expected, so they had made all the preparations. Snowball was in charge of the defensive operations. Snowball he had read a book on Julius Caesar's campaigns, which he found in the farmhouse, and therefore he was assigned the charge of defensive operations. He gave his orders quickly, and in a couple of minutes, every animal was at his post. So a tremendous war happens between the animals and the humans. The animals they use everything which was available on the farm to attack the men who had entered the farm. And we read that the men they were gouged, they were kicked, bitten, trampled on, and finally they flee the farm. So it was the very first battle between animals and human beings, and the animals came out victorious. And an impromptu celebration was arranged to celebrate the victory immediately. The flag was run up, and the song Beasts of England was sung a number of times. The animals also decided to convey or create military decorations like Animal Hero First Class and Animal Hero Second Class. Animal Hero First Class were offered to Snowball and Boxer. It consisted of a brass medal, and they had find this brass in the harness room, and they could wear this on Sundays as well as holidays. The Animal Hero Second Class title was given to the sheep who had died during the battle. And there was much discussion as to what the battle should be called, and in the end, it was decided that the battle would be named the Battle of Cowshed, since that was where the ambush had sprung. And the animals also found Mr. Jones' gun, which was found lying in the mud. And they knew that there was ample supply of cartridges in the farmhouse, so they decided to set up the gun at the foot of the flagstaff and fire it twice a year. Once on October 12th, which was the anniversary of Battle of Cowshed, and the second was on the Midsummer's Day, which was the anniversary of the rebellion. And that is where we come to the end of chapter 4. Thank you so much. In the next video lesson, I will discuss chapter 5 of this novella. Thank you.